Hi, welcome to the fourth lesson. So in the previous two lessons, we examined qualitative research and explored the methods commonly used to understand people's experiences, perceptions, and social interactions. In this lesson, we will turn to the second major approach to social science research, which is quantitative research. While qualitative research seeks to understand meaning, whilst qualitative research seeks to understand meaning, quantitative research seeks to measure social phenomena and examine relationships between variables. It enables us as researchers to answer questions such as how many people are affected, how frequently does something occur, what factors are associated with a particular outcome, does a policy or intervention make a measurable difference? Quantitative research is central to evidence-informed policy making. Governments use quantitative evidence to estimate poverty rates, monitor unemployment, evaluate social protection programs, assess educational performance, and allocate public resources. International organizations as well, including the World Bank, the United Nations, and national statistical agencies like StatsSA, similarly rely on quantitative research to monitor progress towards developmental goals. So by the end of this lesson, you should be able to define quantitative research, explain its philosophical foundations, distinguish concepts, constructs, and variables, understand operationalization and measurement, explain the relationship between independent and dependent variables, and appreciate the contribution of quantitative research to social policy and development. So, what is quantitative research? Quantitative research is an approach of inquiry that seeks to measure social phenomena using numerical data and statistical analysis. Rather than focusing primarily on meanings or experiences, quantitative researchers investigate patterns, trends, and relationships between measurable variables. Typically, quantitative questions include what proportion of households live below the poverty line? Has unemployment increased over the past decade? Does educational attainment influence employment outcomes? Is participation in a youth employment program associated with higher earnings? These questions require evidence that can be expressed numerically and analyzed statistically. In terms of the philosophical foundations, quantitative research is traditionally associated with positivism, a philosophical perspective that argues that knowledge should be based on systematic observation, measurement, and empirical evidence. Positivist researchers assume that social phenomena can be investigated using rigorous and transparent scientific procedures. Although contemporary quantitative research is often influenced by positivism, which recognizes that perfect objectivity is difficult to achieve, the emphasis remains on careful measurement, transparency, and minimizing bias. Researchers therefore used standardized procedures to ensure that data collection and analysis are as reliable and consistent as possible. Measurement in quantitative research. Measurement lies at the heart of quantitative research. Some characteristics can be measured directly. These include age, income, years in education, household size, sorry, employment status, examination marks, etc. These characteristics can easily be expressed numerically. However, many of the concepts that interest social scientists are abstract. Examples include poverty, social cohesion, well-being, empowerment, resilience, trust in government, discrimination, mental health. These abstract ideas are known as constructs. Constructs cannot be observed directly. Instead, researchers identify indicators that allow them to measure the constructs indirectly. Operationalizing concepts. This is transforming an abstract concept into something that can be measured. And this process is known as operationalization, which is one of the most important stages of quantitative research. It requires researchers to specify exactly how a concept will be measured. Consider, for example, the concept of poverty. There is no single universally accepted measure of poverty. Researchers might operationalize poverty using household income, consumption expenditure, multidimensional poverty indices, food insecurity, housing quality, educational attainment, as well as access to basic services. Each operational definition captures a different aspect of poverty. Researchers must therefore justify why particular operationalization is appropriate for their study. For example, a study examining income inequality may define poverty using Statistics South Africa's upper bound poverty line. Another study investigating multidimensional deprivation may combine measures of housing, education, nutrition, and health access. The research question determines the most appropriate operational definition. Variables. Once concepts have been operationalized, they become variables. A variable is any characteristic that differs across individuals, households, organizations, or communities. Examples include household income, employment status, educational attainment, migration status, age, gender, access to social grants. Variables allow researchers to compare observations and identify patterns across populations. Independent and dependent variables. Many quantitative studies investigate whether one variable influences another. This introduces two important concepts. The independent variable is the factor expected to influence the change. The dependent variable is the outcome being investigated. For example, imagine a study evaluating a school nutrition program. The independent variable is the participation in the program. Dependent variable may be learner attendance, academic performance, body mass index, the BMI, concentration in class. Similarly, researchers may ask, does participation in a public employment program improve household income? Does access to clean water reduce childhood illnesses? Does educational attainment increase employment opportunities? Does receiving a social grant improve household security? Quantitative research enables these relationships to be examined systematically. However, researchers should remember that a statistical association does not automatically imply causation. Demonstrating causality requires careful research designs and consideration of alternative explanations. Objectivity and researcher influence. Quantitative research places considerable emphasis on objectivity. Researchers attempt to minimize the influence on the data collection process by using standardized procedures. Examples include structured questionnaires, anonymous online surveys, identical interview schedules, standardized measurement instruments, and consistent coding procedures. These approaches reduce opportunities for researcher bias and improve comparability across participants. Complete objectivity is really achievable in social research. People may respond differently depending on context, the wording of the questions, or even the time of day. Nevertheless, quantitative researchers strive to minimize these influences through careful research design. Statistical analysis. Once numerical data have been collected, they're analyzed using statistical techniques. The simplest analysis are descriptive statistics, which summarize data using measures such as frequencies, percentages, averages, medians, means of variation. More advanced analysis are inferential statistics. Inferential statistics allow researchers to investigate relationships between variables, compare groups, and determine whether observed differences are statistically significant. These techniques become increasingly important as researchers seek to explain social phenomena and evaluate policy interventions. Strengths of quantitative research. It offers several strengths which include allowing researchers to measure the magnitude of social problems, compare populations and communities, identify statistical relationships, monitor change over time, evaluate programs and policies, test theoretical propositions, as well as produce findings that may be generalized to a larger population where appropriate sample procedures are used. These strengths make quantitative research indispensable for policy planning, program evaluation, and evidence-informed decision-making. It does, however, possess some limitations. Because it relies on numerical measurement, it may overlook the meanings and lived experiences behind statistical pattern. For example, a survey may indicate that unemployment has declined, but cannot fully explain how individuals experience insecure work, financial stress, or social exclusion. Similarly, quantitative data may reveal that households receive grants, but they cannot fully capture how recipients experience dignity, dependency, or empowerment. For this reason, many contemporary researchers combine quantitative and qualitative methods to provide a more comprehensive understanding of these issues. So in summary, quantitative research seeks to measure social phenomena using numerical data and statistical analysis. Its defining characteristics include systematic measurement, operationalization of concepts, analysis of variables, investigation of relationships between variables, standardized data collection, and careful statistical analysis. So for researchers in social policy and development, quantitative methods provide essential evidence for understanding the scale of problems, evaluating interventions, and informing policy. In the next lesson, we will examine sampling in quantitative research. Thank you.